practitioner, and I am honored to have Claire McInytre with me here today to join me and help me navigate the chat and any questions anybody might have. We will be working as usual with the Genius, and we'll be doing a training and also hopefully having a volunteer to help show how the practical application of the Genius. So with that said, if anybody has any questions, please, again, let me know by putting that in the chat. And otherwise, let's get started. Whoops, I didn't. Having some tech issues today. Okay, so is there anyone who has not volunteered before that would like to be a volunteer today? Otherwise, I can, I will just do a group session again.
I see Aurea or Marina as new names.
Yes. So do either one of you, would you like to be a guest? I mean, a volunteer today? Just need to let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to go to use a group. Okay, everybody's quiet today, so I'm just going to do a group session. Okay, I am going to bypass the voice recording today and the picture. I do usually recommend to always use that, but for today, I'm just going to bypass that. Okay, so here we are, and we can add an energetic affirmation. So the one I like to add is all energies are transmuted into the frequency of pure love. And whoops. Okay, and so for anybody that has the trial or whoever, anyone who has the basic version, you will see exactly what I'm looking at right now. You will see the body, mind, and biofield categories. If you were to purchase or to create your own libraries, you would see the custom libraries banner here. So now we can just go down to the bottom and hit begin analysis. Okay, and so the first thing I want to do before I get into explaining anything is to look at the aura. So we can take the aura of the group. So I'm just, you go down to where the aura is in biofield, and you can just click on the line and hit begin analysis. Okay, so now I can just go to the top right and hit hide avatar. And so you can see what the aura looks like. So I just want to point out that green color that you're looking at right here, that bright neon green color, that is a good green color. However, the only thing that we're looking at right now is that this is really, really murky and like dirty looking. There's So there's definitely, interference in here and some negative energies in here that um, hopefully we can clear. So we will work on that today. And then we could also switch to old. Now, when we look at this looks pretty good, actually. We do see some of these lines coming down here, but for the most part, we're seeing some nice, vibrant purples in there. It's a little pale up top over here, but overall, I do like the way that looks. So we can come back to this after we work a little bit and see how we can adjust those. Okay, so what are we looking at here? On the right-hand side, you see a lot of numbers, and then you see all the 4 different colors: blue, green, yellow, and red. So the Genius uses a numerical value system that ranges from 0 to 777. The range 0 to 200 is represented by the color blue, and items in this range are observed to be chronic energetic disturbances. So these disturbances have, been going on for some time. And these disturbances could be considered stagnant energy, under energy, and also items in this range. These energetic disturbances are causing a stress on the body, a crisis on the body, some sort of crisis on the body. The next range goes from 201 to 450. That's represented by the color green. Then we go to 451 to 600, and that is represented by the color yellow. And then our high range goes from 601 to 777, and that is represented by the color red. Items in this range are observed to be heat or inflammation. Could also be referred to as over energy. And oh, I forgot to say, items in this range are acute energetic disturbances, meaning that the disturbance is happening right now here in the present time. The items in this range are causing a stress on the body. So where the blues are causing more of a crisis, the reds are a stress, like in the moment, being caused on the body. So the other thing I just wanted to point out here, there are 2 little icons that you'll see, this little magnifying glass. Wherever you see that, you can click that and it'll give you a little bit more information on that line or the item if you need more information on it. And then on the left, you'll see these like double arrows. And simply what that means is that there's more information below. You can go a little bit deeper. And it gives you just a slightly different view than if you were to click on the line itself. So for example, for minerals, if I clicked on that, you would see all the minerals, you would see the values the same, you would see the little magnifying glass the same. You just don't see it organized by color. Whereas if I clicked on the line, you see everything showing up, with the color to just so you can quickly identify what range it's in. Okay, so I have one question here before I move on. With food sensitivities, when something comes up in high reds that you don't eat at all, what would that mean? Okay, well, number one, the reds are something are just stressed in that moment for the day. So something could be stressed or out of balance. If you haven't eaten, it might show up. In this case, you're asking about sensitivities. Possibly, maybe something you ate or consumed more of it than you normally did, and it put it out of balance. It also can be, especially when people are empathic, They absorb things from other people around them. Maybe it's an issue for them and you just absorb that energy and it needs to pass. And sometimes it could also be, bleed through from a past life that comes in. But um, the big distinction between reds and blues is just how long it's been out of balance for. So just because a specific food item might be out of balance today, um, with it being red, does not mean that you have like a chronic issue with it. So let's see the second part of your question. Like milk showing up as high red while I've been dairy free for years and vegan for most of the time. Thank you. Just because you haven't had it doesn't mean that that item's frequency is like in balance for your body. And maybe you haven't had it because it was out of balance and you felt better not eating it. Maybe if it became imbalanced, it would have a different situation. I mean, every situation is going to be different, but again, it's the point is being if it's out of balance, balance it. And as far as sensitivities go, I would look more at the blues as something that you might have more of a more physical reaction to it than if it was something showing up in the blues. I mean, than in the reds. I hope that makes sense. And Tammy's saying, I show the same thing with a food item I rarely eat in blue. Um, and do you try balancing it and it doesn't balance itself? You can't get it to be balanced. There might be something that you need to add to balance it. Just because you don't eat it doesn't mean it's balanced. I hope that makes sense. It just means you're not eating it, but it doesn't mean it's correcting the imbalance of that specific item, that frequency to the match in your body. So if you're not eating it, if you were to eat it, you might have an issue with it because it's chronically out of balance. I wouldn't suggest that you eat it. I'm just saying that could be what's going on. I balance it, but it always shows up. You might have to dig deeper, on that. Maybe use the entangled insights or the functional zones for that. That's an interesting thing. But again, it's good that you're not eating it, but the item is just still out of balance. It's not out of balance. So when you look at it, do you look at it? I would try putting it maybe in the tray all by itself and then adding other, slowly add different items to the tray, and see how that helps. Anyhow, so I just told you, explain the numbers, the colors, what these little icons meant. Now I just want to go over a little bit on how I run a client session. So the first thing I always like starting with is balancing the body or the vessel, which is our foundation. Just like a home, if you're building a home, you want the foundation to be strong. You wouldn't put the windows in first. Well, the same thing when we're running a session. If we're making sure that our biofield or our energy field is strong, that's going to protect us. So we always want that strong. And also the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, the nutrients that we're putting in our body that help bring, optimal health to our cells, which ultimately will bring us to homeostasis, is healthy. So that is the first step that I like to work with. You could do this manually if you don't have some libraries. So you could just drag and drop everything from the aura field and then go to body and add vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. If you have the bioterrain, there is a library in there called priming uh, vessel priming, and it says begin next week, and that's where you begin. And also, I do have it. I just recently added a few items to it, so you might want to log out and update so that you could get the new update. So I'm just going to click this little tab here that brings the search bar, and I can type bioterrain. And here you could see vessel priming frequencies. And they're all here. I'm just going to drag the line itself if it's going to let me today. Sometimes it's okay. It's not letting me. So I'm just going to use this plus button and add the reds, the yellows, the greens, and the blues. And the reason why I add them all is because when you add items to the main hold tray, the Genius uses algorithms and it will look at the relationship for all the items in the main hold tray. So while the items may appear red or yellow or green here, when it analyzes all of those items, it may not, it may show up differently. It may not like playing with all those people in the sandbox, so to speak. So let's hit the play button for the main hold tray. Okay, I'm getting another question. It says items you eat can include foods made with it in the recipe. Example, milk as a glaze. Is that to me, David, or are you saying that to like, I'm not sure what you're asking me there. But anyway, let me just go back to the progressive insights here. So we have all the items in the tray. What I like to do is I'll move the timer to 1 minute, select all, and we can hit play here. Okay, so if you look on the bottom, the average percent rectification is 29%. Now that is considered a good percent. Anything between 20 and 40% is considered good. Anything above that would be considered excellent. And if we look at the 3 categories just above, harmony, alignment, and energy flow, I like to look at the lowest percentage, which in this case is 23%, to the high, which is 33, the alignment. And there's a range of 10 points, percentages, which is good. I don't like to see that range get greater than 20%. In my observation, if it starts getting greater than 20%, it's not as stable, meaning it can get thrown out of balance faster. So I do like to, if that's not within 20%, even if the average percent rectification is above 40%, I would still run it again. But in this case, It's below 40%. So I'm going to deselect all so that nothing is selected. And then I'm going to select the lows and the highs. And I'm going to put the timer on 0 minutes so that I can run it for an additional 30 seconds and see if that brings the percent rectification up. Okay, so that's the average percent rectification is low there. So to me, normally what that suggests to me is number one, either me or the client is dehydrated and needs water. So I would recommend if anybody has water with them to please take a sip, or it could mean that we need to just limit the number of items that we're working on. Sometimes I find that if we work with a smaller amount, we can process them better. So I'm going to deselect the highs here and only work with the lows and see if that makes a difference as well. Okay, we're at 20% again. I would love to see that a little higher. So in this case, I'm going to deselect the lows. Let's try working with the highs now for 30 seconds and just see it's, just seeing what works here. Okay, this is a little better. It's at 34%. So, again, sometimes it's just playing with it a little bit. I'm just going to select the mediums and see if just working with the mediums will help, because what I usually find is once you find the combination that gets you to that breakthrough, the other ones will kind of go up too. So maybe it's the mediums that we need to work on. Okay, so we're getting there. Not exactly where we want to be. I'm just going to select all and hit it for 1 minute and see if that helps us out. Okay, so we're struggling here a little bit as a group. I do want to move on, but I would still continue to work with this if I was in a session. Um, so not sure why. Sometimes it's just a question of adding one item. So why don't we try that? Let's just go back and maybe there's an item. I don't know. I'm gonna say is one of the solutions. Maybe there's something um that it needs in here. I'm just gonna try actually the top one. And let's just see if that makes any difference. So go figure. So I've added the one other item that could work as a solution. I only ran it for a few seconds and it did bring the average percent rectification up to 54. And between the low and the high were right within that 20. So I'm finally happy with that. So that is great. If we didn't run it so many times, normally what I would do here is I would hit rescan and then just run the highs and the lows. But let's just go back so we can get to our step 2. And I'm just going to empty out the main hold tray. And I'm going to click on System Overview. This is one of my favorite steps. And that is because in energy healing work, anything can cause anything. And this gives us a big opportunity to work with potential underlying causes. And the blues would be those potential underlying causes. So right now, what we're looking at, if you have libraries, you're seeing all the line items from the system overview and all the line items from all the libraries that I have. And they're put in chronological order. I have quite a few here, so I'm not going to go scan through them. It would just take way too long, but I am going to switch the view so we can look at the blues. And again, this is going to vary a little bit for everybody depending on how many libraries you have. I have like close to 2,500 libraries. So, I would not be hitting add all blue items to the tray because I could have up to like 5,000 items in it, and that would be way too many. I like to keep it between 2 and 250. Sometimes I stretch it a little bit, but I don't really, for the most part, like to have more than that. So what I do in this case is I can go down to the little crosshairs or the plus button, and I could add the bottom 50. So now I have those bottom 50 there. Sometimes I scroll down and maybe I'll count to 100, but it is a little bit tedious to do it that way. So instead, after I have the bottom 50 from all my libraries and the system overview, I can now remove the libraries. And I'm now left with just all the items from the system overview. And now I can add the blue items. Okay, so that gives me a total of 162 items down there in the tray. Now you can see that there are a lot of meridian points that are out of balance here. So that's just something that you may want to dive in and look a little closer at, but we're going to work with it a little bit right now. So hopefully that will All right, and again, I'd like to put the timer on 1 minute to start and select all and hit play. got this little pop-up because our average percent rectification is above 40%, which is amazing. It's 46. And we have 42, 42, and 56, which is again within that 20%. So I'm happy with that. Now, so the next thing I would do here, since the average percent rectification is over 46, I would hit reset. And I will select the highs and the lows to work with. I'm not working with the mediums here, and I'm going to put the timer on 0 minutes so we can just run it for about 30 seconds and see if we can get a higher percent rectification on the highs and the lows. And we have 37%, which is pretty good. And the harmony, alignment, and energy flow again, which is within that 20. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to back arrow now to the system overview page, and I am going to clear out what's in the main hold tray here. And I think because we've had some questions on the sensitivities today, I'm going to look at that to see if we can help see what's going on there. Again, this is going to be the group, but since you're all part of the group, hopefully we can do something that will help here. So let me just go to sensitivities. And if we go to, well, there is no milk showing in the blue here for the group. Here is milk. So I'm just going to select milk. I guess. And by selecting it, actually, hold on a second. I'm going to drag milk into the main hold tray. And then I am going to click on it again so we get into the Entangled Insights. Now, often, sometimes allergies to certain foods or other things could be emotional. So we could choose to look at just the emotions that are involved in that. So I'm just gonna, now that I hit emotional, I could hit check. Okay, and then you might want to add in, there are none that are 100% affecting this one, but again, milk wasn't, it was a green. So that could be part of the problem that we're looking at. But we could potentially add some of these in. Maybe I'll just add these super low ones that are down here that are blue, and I'll add a few of these up here that are red. Okay, why don't we also look at an item that's I guess let's just look at perfumes. And I didn't add that in again. Rats. Sorry, guys. I just want to, you have to make sure that the thing that you're looking at, you remember to drag in before you click on the line. So again, we can look at the emotions that might be tied to perfumes on why you might have a sensitivity to it. Okay, there aren't any that are 100% here, but let's just add these top few up to 90%. You could add all the reds and all the blues, but I want to look at a few other things in the Entangled Insights database, so it will add up to some of those items. So for the perfumes, you could also look at um, let's see if there's, well, let's just add all the items now. Okay, so now we have some items that are showing up. That could be part of the reason why there is a sensitivity to perfumes, because potentially the celery seed essential oil can be out of balance, or a number of these things could be out of balance, and that is what's causing the perfumes to be out of balance. So we can just drag and drop all the hundreds here. And a lot of times, these won't make sense. There's like no real rhyme or reason. You just have to trust in what the genius is finding. There are a lot of 100%. Okay, and then we can scroll down, and I like to add like the 1% in here. Sometimes some people like to widen the range and go 15% and down and 85% and up. Whatever, there's no set rule on that. So, and now we'll just add the 1%. And if you're wondering why I'm adding the 1%, it's kind of really like mathematical. If you look at a bell curve, um, you it's the things that are on the ends of the bell curve. If you want to be balanced and in the middle, it's what's at the ends that are unbalanced. So that is why I'm looking at both. I don't know if I did get to all of them. Okay, so that we've added all those items. Now you could go, we had those in the main hold tray. I can hit play here, and we can hit begin. And again, it's possible we can go a little bit deeper on here. So I can look for perfumes, which is what was blue for everybody, for the group, for sensitivities. And if I click that, now we can work with the functional zones. So I'm going to click on functional zones. And so with these zones, you can get a different sense of, what's going on. I would look at what's red right now first. A lot of times you can go through all of them and add it, but first I'm just going to drag and drop these 3 zones. And then I'm going to click on each zone. Okay, so yeast stress evaluation, there's a 97% chance that has something to do with it. And parasite stress evaluation, 92%. So it's not 100%, but it's relatively high percentages there. So I added those to the main hold tray. We can go now to the tissue regulation zone. And again, I would add both of these. One is a cystic process stress evaluation and organic vegetative stress evaluation. And finally, the biochemical. And we have pH alkaline stress and vitamin stress evaluation. So now let's, and finally, I'm just going to work with the interference zone as well, since that is below 400. And here we have 91 and 90% chance of affecting it. So now we can go get to progressive insights and run begin analysis. All right. And again, I will select 1 minute and select all and hit play. Okay, and so it's a 16% rectification. So I would deselect that since it's low, and I'm just going to select the lows and move it down to 0 minutes and run that for 30 seconds. Okay, great. So we have a 59% rectification and it's within that 20%. So I'm happy with that. So Linda's asking, what does the Foci evaluation mean? Um, the Foci, if I'm pronouncing it right, is the plural form of focus. So I believe that is just like the focus evaluation. I don't have the manual in front of me, but it might describe that a little bit differently. But that is what that word means. So the lows are chronic issues. Yes. The way I say yes, Mitzi, because the way I work with the progressive insights, the highs are like your reds, your lows are like the blues, and the mediums would be like your yellows and the greens. However, if you do look in the manual, it does look at the highs, mediums, and lows differently. It looks as the highs here as the priority to work with. The mediums, would be your next, and the lows would be the lowest priority. When you are working with the quantum field, which we are, your intention of how you want to work with it is really important. So I hold the intention when I work with my genius that the highs are like your reds and the lows are like your blues. I hope that helps you. Okay. So I do have a question. Is anybody in the group have a known issue with perfumes? Just curious with that showing up, if anybody has a known issue. Oh, Karen, you do. Awesome. Well, maybe we could help you out here with it. Are you noticing any shifts or anything as we're working on these? Just curious. Little shifts. Okay, well, let's see. what else we can do here. So let's rescan. And I'm going to work with the lows and the highs here for 30 seconds. Okay, so that was 27% rectification, but again, the harmony, alignment, and energy flow is really tight, so I'm happy with that. Now, I just want to say, oh, Karen's saying you can feel the inside sinus area. Oh, awesome. Now, for anybody, or even I'm sure Karen knows this already, but I only dealt with the 100% and 1%. If you wanted to widen that, if you weren't getting the results you needed, maybe you need to go down to that, 85% and above and 15% and below, and you're working with more frequencies. You may get a more dramatic impact. I didn't go that deep because it's just tedious to drag and drop all those different line items, but that might be something you want to do, or add all the reds and the blues. But sometimes when you're working with entangled insights, if you've added like all the different categories, adding the reds and the blues is going to be too many usually to work with. So that's would be my opinion on that. Let's go back now. We're almost at the top of the hour. I do want to look at the aura, and I may want to do one other thing. I just want everybody to, well, we see where the perfumes here is at 47, but let's look at the aura and see how that has shifted. If so, it still looks a little dreary, but it is looking a little bit more integrated because we have more layers of the green, which is good. I'm not really loving this in here. But we can work with some grounding and frequencies to help with that in a minute. And this doesn't look as pretty as it looked before. So let's just see. Let's run some. So I'm just gonna the Alaskan gem elixirs are really like your crystals, and they're great for stability and grounding. And this is being temperamental again, so I'm just gonna add them all this way. And I'm kind of hearing to use Bach flower essences, so let's just use the blue ones. Are you feeling tired? Really interesting. Thanks for mentioning. So interestingly, I meant to clear the main hold tray before I added the gems, but apparently I forgot. But I don't believe they're a mistake. So there's probably a reason why I didn't do that. So now we can see the average percent rectification is 53%, and harmony, alignment, and energy flow again are tight within that 20%. So I'm happy with that. So let's just go back. We can see Dominique is saying her sinuses are more dry now, which is awesome. Okay, again, this brown, dark brown is moving out more dimensionally, so it's getting further from our physical body, which is a little bit better. This green is a beautiful green. Again, there's still interference in here, guys. So there's probably, I would recommend after this session, if you do know how to clear yourself, to do some clearing, wash your hands. That's always a good thing. Go out and get grounded, but there does seem to be some interference. But what I want to do really quick, I don't know if this will show us the desired results that we want, but I thought it would be really cool if we back out and go back in really quick and see if perfume shows up at blue. So let's just see. Um, and fingers crossed, where's sensitivities? Well, perfume isn't down on the bottom, so that's a good sign. Where is it? So it's up here at 451, which would really be a good number. So, hey, that's awesome. I'm really happy to see that. Karen, maybe your perfumes, we've worked with it. I would obviously still continue to check on it and work with it, but um anyway, that is how I would recommend to go through when you have the sensitivities. Even if it doesn't seem to make sense, if you're avoiding something, remember, just because you're avoiding eating it doesn't mean that it's balanced in your system. It just means that you're not eating it. So if you were to reintroduce it into your system, would you react? Based on what the genius is telling us, it's very possible that you would. So you do want to work with it. Does anybody have any questions before we close and end for today? No question. Oh, one, wait, let's see. Lots of chemical drops in synthetic grain today. Can feel it. Thanks. Well, I'm glad that that was helpful for you, Karen, and for anyone else. I hope that you find some relief as well. So thank you everybody for being here. Really appreciate you coming. And we will see you next week. I'm just going to stop the recording here.